Hello, hello. So the idea is I want to make some small changes to make the game look a little bit better and polished. Also, I'm working on building out a frigate, and I wasn't sure what weapons I wanted to give it. I'm just sort of drawing up the art now. This would be the turrets that would spin round, but I'm kind of thinking I've already got lots of units that do single shots, so I might just have a single turret here and then some sort of multi-cannon or missile launch thing. I haven't quite decided what I want to do there yet, but I think, yeah, I'm going to do that and make some changes. I'm just jumping backwards and forwards between YouTube and things just to see if there's any comments in the streams, and I'll just carry on while I'm building this out. But the first thing I want to do is I notice sometimes when the tanks bump into ground objects, they move the ground objects. We don't really want that to happen. So I think I noticed that in level 5, so I'm just going to have a look through it just now. So this checks if the enemy collides with a bullet, or if the ally collides with a bullet. So if it collides with a bullet, and then check, this bullet collides, we'll check if, if this is the same side as whatever side the bullet is, and if it isn't, then it'll inflict damage. Some missile plume, some death animation. So I'm going to go check in the level functions to see if I've got any shunting in the way, which is here. Here we go. So this is where I move the enemies out of the way. So get the player out of self space. This just ensures that if the player bumps into an aircraft, it'll move its way out. Now let's just make sure that none of the enemies bump into each other. So I'm just going to try and modify this a bit. So there's the enemy that I'll iterate through. So I'll say the other enemy, and then to go through the other enemy, and then I think I've got a double loop here. I should do anyway. Right, so this manage collision function is being applied to, let's have a look in the level. Have a look in level 5. I think it just gets applied to each enemy. Yeah, so it gets applied to the enemy in specific, so I'll need to put a note in there to myself, just so I remember. So currently, if collides with self, player, and enemy. So let's just check who this is. So we're level 5. Right. So it just says if the enemy collides with the player and the player's not invincible and the enemy is flying, then it'll move the player out of the way. So I'm going to just put this note in here to say applies to enemies. Hello, Mr. Ramsey. How's it going? Thanks for dropping in. So yeah, basically, like, I'll show you the game while I'm playing it. So this is just really a chat. Feel free to sort of ask any questions. We could just talk about anything really. While otherwise, I'm going to just do some game art and game development. So the game kind of looks like this so far. So let me show you. I'll kind of open up a level. That intro screen I need to sort of fix, because it just gets a bit annoying. But at least it's only temporary. So these tanks are small green tanks. They're quite easy to take out. What happens is the player locks on. So I built this log on. There's a lot of stuff I don't like about this so far, right? The graphics are really, really simple. Obviously, because I'm focusing more on coding just now. And the damage animations is just like a black splotch, which isn't really good, right? So these are like, it's got a bit of green in it. But what I probably should do is some sort of like crater, and I think I'm going to draw a crater around them. But I also want to experiment with an explosion animation. So I like these missiles, by the way. I think I've done well with them. I've also got a nuke. I'll show you. It's a bit overpowered though. It's absolutely mental. But yeah, I've got a bomb. Yeah, any shoot 'em up isn't complete without a crazy powerful bomb. What I want to do is probably just add in some kind of like shrapnel effect. So like, let's just change weapons. So like, especially with flying vehicles, like I want to hit it, and I want that to like blow apart with a little bit of shrapnel that'll just fall into the ground, and maybe the ships should sink. I mean, I'm working on a better ship at the moment, so I'm working on this guy. The idea is I'm going to have a level it's actually going to be quite complex, but in it I'm going to have a dock with a few ships like here, and here, which you'll take out, and then a really big, either a carrier or destroyer here, which will take a lot of pounding, like a battleship, and it'd be like a mini boss. So that's what I'm kind of working on just now. But yeah, so that's the main thing. I'm going to be jumping in and out between chats to make sure like I'm not missing anything, like in the event that people ask questions and stuff. Otherwise, just feel free to watch or ask me what I'm doing. I don't have notifications set up, so unfortunately I'll just be jumping backwards and forwards between streams. So I think the first thing I want to do is maybe let's fix this carcass, which is that's quite interesting. I've got it just here. So let's see. Do I have one for the tank? Yeah, I do. So let's fix this guy first. So that's pretty cool. It's a good first pass. It kind of like lights up, which I think the green, I've got some other carcasses which are a bit more animated. Let me think which one it could be. It's MLRS. Yeah, I think this one's a bit more animated, this one. So if I kind of play it, just like, it's supposed to be like burning embers, which is not bad, I suppose, but it's actually horrible. It doesn't look great, so I need to improve it a little bit. So what I'm going to do is try and work on that just now. So actually what I'll do is I'll expand it by a set amount. So I'll add, let me think, I'm going to do this. I'll add 20 to each border. Yeah, that looks fine. Okay, now I want to make some kind of like brown crater. We'll have a look how that turns out. So I'll do it. I'll experiment a bit, see how it looks. But the idea is I want some kind of like, because a good example of what good looks like, I suppose, is to, if I go Raiden Project 2, and I'll put, just look at the images in this. There's some really good examples. So this is the de facto shmup. It's the most well-known shoot 'em up, and it's from 1993. They really set the bar when it comes to shoot 'em up games. So imitation is the best form of flattery, and I think they do it really well. So they've got a nice little crater here, but I've seen much better ones in the same game. I'm going to try and find an example. This looks quite good. So it's like, you can see it's almost like they've kept the pattern of the field, which is going to be really hard because I've got a lot of terrain. I've got desert and mountain just like they do too. There's another example. So if I scroll in here, you can see again, it's like a nice patch. And I think from an artist point of view, again, I'm not no artist here, but I think the reason, I don't know if this will let me view this in full screen. Continue. I've noticed that they try to stop you now from getting past this screen, these screens. So if the reason, this looks a bit grainy, but the reason that looks so well merged into the background is to do with contrast. So they have the contrast quite low and the brightness quite high, so that your mind automatically thinks of it as a background thing and not a sprite. So like these sprites here, these stand out because they're stronger colors. Because obviously this is 2D, right? There's no real depth perception here. The way that you manage depth perception is through tints, colors, and contrast, and then obviously sizing and things. But that's sort of the main way that they manage to do that. Don't know, am I audible? Yeah, it must be. Okay, cool. Right. So back to it. Let's try and do this with the brown colour that I've picked. First of all, just see if going to save this for now. Just quickly play the game just to make sure that it picks up on it. And then we'll... Oh, I forgot the tanks aren't until the later bit. Just going in gung-ho at the moment. Because they're the big brown tanks. Can't skip this scene. I should really make it skippable. Nuke 'em. Okay, fine. So that doesn't look good. It's just like a nice brown circle. Let's try and work on that now. Let's try and make that better. And we're going to try and use a similar trick like that's shown in the game. So I'm going to make it a lighter brown, but obviously not too light. So I'll try and merge these colours here. And I'm going to go for like a kind of like this brown. It's probably a better brown. Yeah, that's brown. It's more like a ground coloured brown. And then I'm going to remove the outer carcass layer because I don't want to see that. So let's get an idea of what craters look like. So if I go and just Google, I don't want to just copy exactly. I think crater, I'll put a bit of depth in it as well. So I'll say crater pixel art. I can also ask Midjourney as well. So I can just say to Midjourney, pixel art create prompt image pixel art crater top down 2D crater 2D I'll just say 16. I'll just say SNES graphics. So we'll wait for that to come up with that, and while it's doing that, I'll look at some examples here. Oh, I like this one. This looks really good. Obviously, that's a bit too drastic considering it's just a tank blowing up, but I could probably use that and keep that in my mind for a boss one. So I think we'll have a look here. It's nothing really. You know, when you Google images and things, you don't really find another. There's some good sites out there, but I always forget the name of them. There's nothing here that's really popping up to my mind. This is what the moon crater looks like, I guess. So that it would be nice to have that, that rim maybe. So I could have a kind of like pick a darker color. Yeah, so we'll pick a darker color here. We'll set the symmetry. I'll make a kind of like a rim. Now there's a little trick that you can do here, and I'll show you this trick in a minute. So pick that colour there. Maybe not too strong a colour. Darker colour. Yeah, so we'll follow a darker colour on the outside. It's really hard to draw this kind of like chaotic effect. So what you want to do is you want to first kind of get the rough. And then here you kind of want a gradient going in from this colour to the light colour. So the way you can do that is you can just step down. Right, so I make the thing bigger now so I can sort of step this kind of gradient here. But that's still quite dark, so I'm going to bring it up a bit in tone. There you go. It's a bit too much. So what you can do is you can pick a middle ground colour. So I think try this one. It's a bit better. Take another mid-level, go like that. Okay, so that's looking a bit better. So we've got something which looks a bit like a basin here, but this outside thing isn't working. So what we'll do is we'll move this section up a bit. So I'll remove This I forgot. The symmetry unfortunately works to my disadvantage in this case. Don't want it to be too stretched in one vertex. Fill these in. Okay, so that's not too bad, and we can join these cracks up. So obviously the outside is going to merge more in, but it's not a good colour. It's too bright. So, but that's obviously too dark. So we're going to slowly kind of find some middle ground. That's a bit better. But now what we want to do is shift the hue a little bit. Sorry, saturation. So I'll desaturate it. That's better. So you see now that's when you reduce saturation, it merges it into the background a bit. So increase the lightness, decrease the saturation a little bit there. In fact, I should probably do it for everything. You'll notice like a lot of my sprites, they do look a little bit childish. That's because it's less the artwork, it's more the colour. The colour is the science behind the colours, which I haven't quite spent time to work on. It's only when I spend time that I can get something quite decent. So this should, I still don't quite like that, so I need to find some middle ground colour. That's a bit better. So if ever the colours don't look agreeable, that's probably because they contrast too much. And this is still really low, low effort stuff by me. I can definitely do a lot better, but this, this sorting of creators is a small thing. Not really that bothered about it. I'm just doing it to make it better than the crap that I've got at the moment. So the reason why I'm kind of filling this in and not really doing like much anything special with it is I'll show in a moment, and I'll sort of spot. You don't want it to be too much of a perfect circle, so you maybe want to crag it a bit. Maybe break it down there. And leave bits scattered. Yeah, that's a bit better. Now I want to just slowly sort of fragment this up so it doesn't look too clean cut. Alright, that's not bad. Now to finish this, it does look a bit of a mess though. Let's forget about the scatter effect for now. I think this will be the next colour here. Can blown up vehicles left smouldering and smoking it? Exactly, Dave. That's exactly what I'm thinking of. That's my next thing. That's exactly what I was going to do. So I've got it in my list here. Billowing smoke. Billowing black smoke. That's exactly what I was thinking. So I should reply to you there. Find you in the chat. I don't know if you're following the audio, but that's exactly what I'm thinking. Great. So this artwork done by AI, it's not really what I'm looking for. I'll try one last time though. I'll just say pixel art. Oh no. Imagine. Get me shmup art top down 2D crater on a field. Yeah, that's fine. Just see if that does it. So while it's doing that, I'll finish this off a bit. That looks a bit better. You notice how like when the colours all match, it looks a lot better. Right, we'll stick with that for now. It's not perfect by any means. Looks a bit too shapy here, so I'll get rid of that. Break it up in bits. Maybe here too. Yeah, and you'll want like maybe streaks. I'm not sure if this will work, but let me give it a try. So maybe like streaks. No, that doesn't work. Right, let's leave it like that for now. It's better, but it still kind of sucks. Probably time to change the contrast of these guys as well. Bring the saturation down a bit. I'll expand the size out of this and make the radius fill as much of the space as I can. And I'll focus more on doing the smoke because that's actually what I want to do as the next feature. This is better than it was, I think, so that's the main thing. The colour's probably not very... I might want to put a bit of grey in it. Just a very light touch of grey. Yeah, that looks a bit better, I guess, but maybe have a... Let's try and reverse the colours though. Let's try and see what happens if I invert the colours. So have the darkest on the outside. I don't know if I like that. Still looks a bit, not much character. I'll have to add rocks and things, but I think for now, let's decide. I'll go with that for now, but it's still... It's hard to tell which one will look better. Probably need to take it so it's not so square either. like the shapes of the damage. Yeah, it looks a bit better. Actually, keep that there. Right, let's just leave that for now. Could definitely do with more work for sure. Get rid of that, save that, and then I'll look and see which one looks better. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. I mean, appreciate you listening away. It's just really me just playing about with some artwork, and just anybody that wants to drop on and chat about stuff, then yeah, by all means, man. So yeah, I guess like looking at that, obviously the animations is changing. I think it doesn't look good on concrete, which is like one of the reasons I forgot I did the shadow in the first place. So let's keep it for now. I think I'm going to keep this one. It looks a little bit better. And I'm going to save it as a spare. So I'll just call it tank carcass in progress.png. And then I'm going to undo everything and take it back to the way it was for now. Just so it allows it to be like a fair damage on regardless on any background. I'll work more on the creator work, but you can see like just how hard it is to animate these things. So I think my next thing I want to do is like this billowing smoke, and that's going to be quite tough. So I think I need to get some examples of what that might look like, but it's absolutely mandatory to do. Like games, one of the things you'll notice like in games, like as you're attacking the enemy, like smoke will start to pour out of the enemy before they're destroyed. And I think I need to figure out, what that might look like. So shmup billowing smoke. Shmup game. Shmup means shoot 'em up, but yeah, Google's not that great. I think this is where ChatGPT is going to absolutely dominate, because like when you look for something on Google, like people try to make out like it's an art, but even if you kind of spend ages using quotes and special ways to shape the question that you're asking it, if it's not got it indexed, it's just not going to find it for you. So sometimes just Google, I don't waste my time doing advanced searches unless I'm really looking, like I'm really really desperate to find something. So we'll look for pixel art maybe. Want some black billowing smoke. There's a great art, some great art examples. I might try and go and find it. So let me think where it would be. Comprehensive game dev. Art resources. Low spec maybe. Mini boss. So one of these I think. Yeah, this is the page. This is like basically the pixel art Bible, right? So this is the place to go if you want to learn how to do anything in pixel art. It is absolutely amazing. It's probably the best page out there. So it literally explains all of the way that you would animate anything in pixel art. So what I'm going to go and do is do a search for smoke. Here we go, smoke animation. This is what we're looking for. Smoke and other particle systems are complicated. Luckily, individual particles are simple. So the trick, animate a single particle, go back and do another until the smoke is done. Right? So you can see there's like lots of pixels here, and that's quite complicated. So the first frame is a contrast frame, and what they've done is they've made like a spark to contrast between the first black and the second thing. When animating complex systems, always try to focus on one element at a time. Yeah, that's really good advice. There's other ways to do it using coding, right? So like one way is like in this art example. So like I could build something out. So let's say my smoke, I can make billowing smoke. Let's see how many dimensions. We'll go 40 by 40 for now. We could just do some really simple frames. So I could do like maybe like a start. I'm thinking maybe like a grey particle that turns into black particle. As I'm thinking. So I'll set the onion frames on, and you'll see what that is. So maybe set a particle here, like of this size. And then I'm going to set, so there's a trick that you can do, F3, and that lets me see the next particle. So I'm going to shift the color down a bit and move it out here. Do the same. Shift the color down a bit more. Next one I'll expand it out again. Shift the color down quite a bit. This is always just a first pass, right? Because like the artwork takes time, and so sometimes, sometimes you're better to have something than nothing, even if it does look really bad. So now, my final thing might be these kind of splotches, sort of puffed out smoke. So let's see what that looks like. So probably, I think this is freezing a lot because I've got a lot of tabs open. So maybe leave it like, so it's not expanded too much, then expand it in the next frame. I keep some of these light greys. Take off the onion frame and have a look at that. It's a start. So what happens is you can add a lot of that, but I don't. It's not spherical enough, but it doesn't need to be. But it can't hurt. I think one last thing is I want to puff that out a little bit, then dissipate it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dissipate it a bit by adding some holes in. Mechazilla boss. Yeah, that would be badass. I actually have a bunch of bosses in mind. I'll maybe talk about what my plan was. So I think I've got this saved, so I'm going to close this file. Keep that file, rid of that. But I'll close some files to try and make some. So this is what I was thinking of. So if we're going to tile sets, this is all a snow-based level I'm working on just now. And what I was thinking of is this is the high level idea that I had. So you would come in from the bottom right. It's a really, really big map. And I think for the beginning, I'm going to guide the player through. So if the first bit, I don't want the player to have is free roam. So it'll be a bit like your standard shmup where the screen scrolls forward until you get to the pier and destroy the destroyers. The reason is because it's going to be very heavy slug throwing. There's going to be a lot of heavy, like, this is a port, so there's going to be like heavy equipment, manufacturing, loading machines and things, and there'll be quite a lot of tanks defending the port. And then you'll get here whereas you take out these destroyer ships that I'm going to work on. So definitely smoking craters is going to be a part of that. So I think I'd like to guide the player so the player's just not flying about all over the place. Normally I can just restrict the screen, which is, to the quadrant that they're, this quadrant before I move on. But I like the idea of the player like just being guided and mopping up. If I don't do it there, then I might do it here where, so the first part of the mission is take out this port, take out the destroyers and port, so that there'll be one big massive battleship and a bunch of small destroyers and some auxiliary gunboats and defense small gunboats. And once you take out that and sink the fleet, I want the player to just move down this river. So this river's going to snake a lot. The map's huge, so there'll be a lot of snaking in a river where they're fighting gunboats and some emplaced small tiny islands with AA anti-aircraft on it until they get to the end of the river where there's a carrier that they're going to sink. And then once they've taken out that, they're then back onto land to take out this airbase where there's going to be a lot of like helicopters and gunships that will respond to you. So this will be quite hard. Then what's going to happen is as you take that out, before you get to the final boss, you're going to be called back to mop up the tank base, which will have a lot of enemies which fire out multiple rounds in like spherical directions. And once you take that, you'll be told to go and take on the final boss, which could be Mechazilla. So why not? Why not make it? I haven't quite decided what that final boss was going to be. I was going to make it some kind of metal walker or something. But yeah, why not? Could do that. So that's my idea. That's my thinking of what that boss is going to be. So let's see this from a distance. So this is what it would look like from a distance. You can still see those holes filling up, which isn't good. So what we'll do is instead of having them as holes, we'll change the... Yeah, that's fine. Oh. Just change the propensity of it. It's a bit too much there. It's fine. Try that now. You can still see those holes, I think, from that distance. I'm not sure if that looks nice. No, it doesn't. It doesn't look natural. I think the smoke plume looks okay, but the holes don't look okay. Ah, that's because I missed one. Fine. To be honest, you wouldn't notice the holes, so I probably should leave some of them, because what will happen is the holes, if I take a background, like imagine the background of the canvas is green, some sort of like dark, the grass, it just looks like it's breaking away. So to be honest, it might not be that bad, but I don't need to have the breaking frames to be that much, so it's not that bad, just leave it there. So let's see. Okay, so there's like a little puff of smoke, but it's not ideal. and it's like following in a certain direction as well. But it's a start, right? Like it's a start. It's something that I can keep as a experimental. So I'm going to create some experimental SFX. So in here, I'm just going to create a folder called smoke. I'll just call this prototype. .exe. So you can see, like, just doing the artwork is really painful. When I, get more time on the art, I do a lot better. So some of the art here is from previous games, which is why it looks so good. But then other art is like really just took me just a couple of days to put together. Oh, I like that. Yes. So a sub that surfaces and then dives to evade the player. That's a good mechanic, that is. I need to think about that. So like how, like you want them to surface, you don't want it to be too long a period of time, but you also want it to be not too short a period of time. Yeah, that's good. That's a great idea. I'm gonna add that to the list. A surfacing sub. Okay, I'm going to carry on with this and maybe wrap up just now. I think I got the main thing I wanted to sort of just start working on the sort of art and the creators and things. Yeah, so probably I think I'm going to wrap up just there. And then tomorrow is going to be more work on the artwork and adding some new units and things, and finishing off this frigate. It's still really early days with the artwork, but I'll get something that looks pretty good, and pretty, hopefully, nothing is going to be great. The idea is just to get everything to be passable, and then once it's in, it just barely looks passable in the game, and then once I've got everything hanging together, I can focus on doing better artwork. That's kind of my strategy. First make something that fits and holds together, and then once that all holds together, then focus on building a game that actually looks the part. But to do the looks and the artwork takes a long time. So what I've learned about game work is don't focus your early efforts on the art, because you'll never have anything that you can feel and touch. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on where I am. Thanks for watching, guys. And yeah, I've got a whole bunch of different streams here, so I don't know who's watching on which stream, but yeah, just thanks everyone for watching. And next time I'll probably do a little bit more showcase of the game as well.